This is the last video for the Chapter 2 review, so we will finish up with solving inequalities, and we're going to start with a word problem. So if you look at this problem here that we've got, it says you have $900 to spend on a new deck. Write and solve an inequality that represents the cost per square foot. So that cost per square foot, that's important to us, that you can pay for a new deck if you want to build a deck that is 10 feet long and 15 feet wide. So the cost per square foot means that they are charging you per square foot of deck. So we don't know our cost, but what we do know is that we can find the area of our deck by doing 10 times 15. So I'm going to write 10 times 15, which is 150. Then we need to multiply that by the cost, which we're going to call X because we don't know how much that is. And if you only have $900 to spend on that new deck, that cost has to be less than or equal to 900 because you can't spend more than you have. Okay? So it also asks us to solve. So the opposite of multiplying by 150 would be to divide by 150. So when you divide 150 by 150, those cancel. And then X would have to be less than or equal to 900 divided by 150, which is 6. So what that tells you is that the cost of your deck would be $6 per square foot or less. Alright, so in this next section, it is asking us to solve the inequality. So they've actually already written these for us, and all we're doing is solving. Notice these are two-step inequalities. Okay, so I'm looking at number 27 first. So we have 3u minus 7 is less than or equal to 14. So the opposite of subtracting 7 would be to add 7 to both sides. So that's how I'm going to start, because if we're trying to get u by itself, then we need to move our constant away first. 14 plus 7 is 21. So I brought down my 3u, and the opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide by 3. So when I do that, 3 divided by 3 will cancel, and u is going to be less than or equal to 7, which would be our answer. Okay? Why don't you pause and see if you can do number 29, because it's really similar to 27. Then you can check your work with mine. Okay, so in this problem, the first thing that I did, just like in the last one, is I moved my constant to the other side by adding 3. That's the opposite of subtracting. 5 plus 3 is 8, and I brought down my 4p. Then the opposite of multiplying by 4 was to divide by 4. Those cancel, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Therefore, p would be greater than or equal to 2 in this case. Alright, let's go ahead and look at number 28. For 28, notice that we have the constant first. So we have 7 plus p over 3 is less than 2. So we're still going to move our constant first so that we can isolate p. And remember, the constant is a number without a variable. So the opposite of positive 7 is to subtract 7 from both sides. So those will cancel. And I have p over 3 is less than 2 minus 7. 2 minus 7 is negative 5. Then the opposite of dividing by 3 would be to multiply by 3. So 3 over 3 cancels, and I'm left with p. And whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. So negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And now we have our answer, which is p is less than negative 15. All right. Let's look at number 30. So on number 30, this time what they've done is they have put the variable on the right side of the equation. Now we want our variable to wind up on the left, so you could either move it now or flip it later. So I'm going to flip later. So the opposite of subtracting 13 is to add 13 to both sides. When I add 13 to both sides, positive and negative cancel, and 11 plus 13 is 24, which is less than or equal to 4f. The opposite of multiplying by 4 would be to divide by 4, so I'm going to do that on both sides. And I find out that 6 is less than or equal to f. Now we would rather our variable wind up on the left when we solve, so I'm actually going to rewrite this as f is greater than or equal to 6. When you rewrite your inequality, don't forget that you have to flip that symbol, okay? In this next section, as we're solving inequalities, which is still our instructions, notice that we have variables on both sides, then we have some distribution with variables on both sides, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 31, and then I'm going to have you work 33, and then I'm going to work 32, and I'm going to have you work 34, okay? So let's look at number 31 to start with. We have 7w plus 1 is less than w minus 5. So since our goal is to wind up with our variable on the left, my suggestion is that you move the variables left to begin with. So the opposite of positive w is to subtract w. So I'm going to subtract w from both sides. That will make those cancel, and 7w's minus 1w leaves me with 6w. Since I moved my variables left, I know I need to move this positive 1 right here to the other side. So I'm going to do the opposite of adding 1, which is subtracting 1. That will make these cancel, and I'm going to put minus 1 over here. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Then the opposite of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. When I do that, I find out that w is less than negative 1. Which is my answer. Okay, why don't you pause the video, see if you can do 33 since it's similar to 31. Then you can check your work with mine. Okay, so in this problem, I moved my negative 2a to the other side by adding first. That made these cancel, and 8a plus 2a's is 10a's. Since I moved my variables left, I moved my numbers to the right, so the opposite of a minus 12 was plus 12. Those canceled, and 8 plus 12 is 20. Now when you get to this point, the opposite of multiplying by 10 was to divide, and so I divided both sides by 10, and that's where I found out that a is less than 2. Alright, so for number 32, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to distribute and rewrite at the same time. So I'm distributing this 2 to both sides, to both pieces. So 2 times h is 2h. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Less than or equal, and then I need to distribute this negative 2 also. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and negative 2 times negative h is positive 2h. Okay, so from this point I can actually start moving things around. So I know that I want to move my variable, my positive 2h, to this side by subtracting. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to subtract 2h from both sides. Now, notice when I do that, that positive and negative 2h cancel on this side, and positive and negative 2h cancel on this side. So look at what we're actually left with. We are left with negative 4 is less than or equal to negative 2. So when your variables cancel, you want to look at the numbers and determine whether or not the inequality is still true. So is negative 4 less than or equal to negative 2? And the answer is yes. If the answer is yes, then you know that you have an infinite number of solutions. Okay? So on this particular problem, I have an infinite number of solutions. And that would be my answer. Okay? Alright, why don't you pause and see if you can do 34. So this problem is similar to the last one, but it's slightly different because when my 12j and negative 12j cancel on both sides, and I looked at what I had left, I went ahead and brought it down here so you guys could see it a little easier. 6 is not greater than or equal to 8. So if your variables cancel and your inequality statement is false, then you have no solution. Okay? So if it's true, if the numbers are, the comparison of the numbers is true, then it's infinite, and if it's false, then it's no solution. Okay, so this last word problem we have here, it says that you're saving $12 per week to purchase a kayak. So we know that you're going to have $12 every week. It says that the prices start at $300 and go up. So that means that we're going to have greater than or equal to 300. It says your parents give you $144 to help you. So I know that not only am I getting the $12 a week, but I already have $144. Okay, so let's look at what we've got. This represents the $12 per week that I'm saving, plus the $144 that my parents gave me. And then prices start at $300 and go up. So that's why it's equal to and also greater than. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve, because it asks me to try to find the number of weeks that you need to save in order to purchase the kayak. So the opposite of adding 144 would be to subtract. So I'm going to do that on both sides. When I do that, positive and negative 144 cancel. And 300 minus 144 is 156. Then I bring down my 12x. The opposite of multiplying by 12 is dividing by 12. So I'm going to divide both sides by 12. That'll make that cancel. And when I divide this side by 12, I get 13. So what that means is that it would take at least 13 weeks to save in order to buy the cheapest kayak of $300. And then if you choose to buy one more, then you know it would take the greater than 13 weeks. All right. So we've worked several examples of solving equations, writing equations, and solving and writing inequalities. Your test is this week, so if at any point while we were working through this review you have questions, please come in and get them answered, or you can ask me in class. You guys have a great evening.